What are the cons of not having children? Story 1. People sometimes doubt that I've had intimacy because there's no evidence of it. But let me tell you, I have. Story 2. Parenthood is like life's second leg. You relive childhood, adolescence, but now from your child's perspective. It's not a do-over because it's not your own life, but it forces you to revisit memories and feelings you didn't know you had. It makes you reassess what your parents did and the effect it all had on you. It takes you out from your usual single-mind perspective as you permanently look at things in terms of how they will make your child feel. All that changes you. So instead of just an experience, parenthood is a completely different way to experience your human life, which feels, IMO, like the arrive where we started and know the place for the first time, part of the T.S. Eliot quote. Going down this path is not required to have a full life, and many don't come the other end better people, but it's definitely something you can't experience unless you have kids. Answer: this. I am a better human being for the experience and perspective. I'm sure that there are other ways to grow and mature as a human, but all the therapy and best intentions did not have this kind of effect. I think the biggest con is not experiencing the hilarity and deep love, but the way I see the world and myself differently is equally life-changing in a good way. Story 3. No one will ever be as impressed with you as your own 4-year-old. I once made rolls that didn't even rise, and she still ate 3. I'm a biology major, and even the simplest facts I share about sharks or birds blow her mind. I taught her how to play Mario Kart, and she cheers me on every time we play, even when I do terribly. She even praises me for going to the bathroom. I'll probably never experience this kind of support again in my life. Answer: I teach at my son's school. He is in high school. Yesterday, I had a big event with my 8th graders. My son and a few of his friends came and helped out. At the end of the day, son said, "I see how hard you work for your students." This was cool. I straight up cried. Having admin and teachers praise you is one thing. Having your own kids see you and recognize you is next level. His teachers all joke about how my son upholds the thin chalk line. He is the first to ask if a teacher needs help. His 8th grade teacher has rheumatoid arthritis. He pops by her room at least once a week with his buddies to see if she needs work hung, things moved, etc. He makes me feel like I have helped put kindness into the world. Story 4. A quote from an older family friend who sadly lost her husband to cancer. Sometimes I wish we did have kids so that some part of him would still be left in the world. My wife and I are also choosing not to have kids, but darn if I don't still think about that line sometimes. Answer: we had a close friend who had cancer. He was pretty young, and when it became clear he probably wouldn't make it, his mom asked him to freeze his sperm. For this same reason, she didn't want there to be no part of him left in the world. After he passed, and then his dad canceled the storage and had the sample destroyed. I think he just kept paying it for her, but he said there was no way he was going out to find a donor and surrogate. He said the idea of his son's child out there with no connection to them gave him nightmares. Story 5. Not experiencing a particular life experience, not necessarily good or bad, just unique, interesting, difficult, beautiful, scary, rewarding, etc., all roll into one. Answer: this. As a child-free by choice person who spent a lot of time and energy coming to and reevaluating my decision to be child-free through the years, this resonates. I don't regret my decision at all, but I also knew there were going to be experiences I wasn't going to have in life. Some of those experiences sounded attractive, others absolutely not attractive, and only my judgment of the value of those experiences mattered to me as the potential parent. There are trade-offs in the decision of the experiences each person values and doesn't want, and for me, I saw my way every time to not wanting the lifetime role of parent over the potential highlight reel that was not guaranteed. Story 6. When they grow up and become adults, they turn into the best of all the besties. My daughter and I have so much fun together, and because she grew up in our home with her dad, me, and her brothers, she knows and I know all of each other's history. Funny events, sad events, inside jokes that never get old. My husband has built-in golf buddies now that the boys have grown up and they all watch sports together and do fantasy leagues together. It's a joy to have adult children. Best circle of friends ever. Answer: I love my relationship with my parents. There's honestly no better feeling than when we're all together. My 2 siblings, all our partners, and my parents. Having dinner and laughing and all the shenanigans that come with it. I think about how they're so lucky we're all in the same area and most likely all staying there. Sometimes when I think about how, if my husband and I don't have kids, we'll miss out on, that I just remember that it's so rare now to have everybody stay in one place, and I'm not sure if I could deal with the heartbreak of them living far away. Story 7. I struggle with feelings of self-worth, but nobody loves me like my children. I was going through a really rough period in my life when the first one was young and potty training. We worked with him using positive reinforcement and praising to great effect. Then one day when I was just disassociating while urinating like you do when life is overwhelming, and your long-term memories might as well belong to someone else, and you feel like you're in a sitcom without a laugh track, and everything just feels gray. Even the light feels washed out. I felt a little patting tap on the back of my upper leg, and I heard a tiny voice say, "Good job, Daddy." I turned around, saw my son standing there. He was proud of me for getting it all in the toilet. I nearly burst into tears, so, yeah, 10 out of 10. Kids can pull you back from the brink some days. Story 8. I have children, and they're the most wonderful, joyous things in my life, and the love I feel and receive is immeasurable and unlike anything else. The thing is, though, you can't miss what you've never had. If you don't have children, there's lots of wonderful things in life, things that are far easier without children. Now, I've had my kids, I can honestly say it's the absolute best, but if you've never had them, there's nothing to miss and lots to enjoy. Edit. Apologies. I'd like to mention I was more thinking about people who don't have children by choice. I cannot begin to comprehend or comment on the experience of someone who doesn't have children when they wanted them and was unable to. Elizabeth Day on the Parenting Help podcast recently spoke of her experience with this, and it was enlightening to me. Answer. This is a great response, and I want to thank you for understanding that those who don't have children and don't want to know that there's a moment that clicks for people who do have offspring. And it's not some magical, wondrous moment of realization that the universe dawns on you. It's literally a biological event. When you smell the newborn pheromones of your own flesh and blood, your brain ticks over the survive mechanic. Ugh, I can't find the right descriptor right now. Into the protect and provide mechanic. So no, I will never feel that way. And the life I live will be just as fulfilled as yours because my brain mechanic will be just as satisfied with my existence because I have fulfilled its purpose. Story 9. The biggest question in my mind is, who will care about me as I get older? But then I remember that having kids doesn't obligate them to care for or about you. Answer. Here's the perspective I'm coming from. I work as a critical care nurse, and I see an untold number of people who arrive near dead from home-assisted living, facility, the street, etc. A lot of them either don't have surviving relatives or ones that don't give a shoot, and these people end up dying alone. It's incredibly sad, and you start to have introspective thoughts on how you're going to leave this world. So I feel like it's two sides of the same coin. My theoretical kids shouldn't be obligated to care about me, but at the same time, on a more base level, I'd like to think I made some sort of difference to someone on this planet, that they cared enough to be there as I die. Having kids is probably one of the bigger ways to affect change on the world, and by extension, make a difference. Story 10. The entertainment you get for free watching your children grow up. The friends you make whose kids are the same age. The joy of seeing them grow up and become happy adults. The sense of a family unit who takes care of each other whenever someone needs us. The laughter and love in the house. Yes, it will not always be laughter, but you do remember the good times. Story 11. I have a successful career where I make a positive difference in the world and make more money than I need. I have a loving spouse who supports me and a small but close-knit group of friends who would do anything for each other. Having your toddler run up to you and hug you as you walk through the front door blows all that out of the water. Just pure joy. A con would be not experiencing that phase where your kids think you're the best thing there is. I spend every day trying to live up to their image of me. Plenty of badness, too. Don't get me wrong. Parenting can be a literal and/or figurative shoot show. Story 12. It's getting harder and harder to make the TV work. In a few years' time, I'm going to have to get the neighbor's kids to come in and set it up. Story 13. I don't have kids. I would say a con is the social impact. Majority of people in your age group will eventually become parents, so you lose a lot of friends to it, which is understandable. They need to prioritize their family and also gravitate to friends who are also fellow parents more than people who are children-free, but still sad to lose that friendship. Also, as a woman, I know that from the moment I was deemed old enough to have a kid, so like 17, I have been bothered about it, and it will be a social scrutiny that I will have to endure until I hit menopause, LOL. A con too is that, with the way our society ranks value, you will likely be placed as less important than people who have kids, likely to happen between employees or family. So that's another social thing that you need to learn to navigate and do so with grace. Unfortunately, being childless is not a neutral thing you can do. Society will try to berate, embarrass, and scold you for it. But in the end, I think it's better to face down that lifestyle than to give in and have a kid that you didn't even feel a natural desire to have. That's how we end up with resentful parents and depressed children. Story 14. I guess just accepting that it's one of those life-changing, amazing experiences that I'll never have. I'm child-free by choice and don't regret it, but I do objectively recognize that being a parent is a uniquely terrifying, powerful, and beautifully enriching experience. I understood when I made my choice that I'd be giving that up. I'm okay with that, though. Life has many different paths, all with their own pros and cons and what-ifs. Story 15. On a purely self-centered, egotistical point of view, you really start to feel it as you get older, and siblings, extended family, friends, and acquaintances are dying off. It's also all the little joys of seeing your kids grow up that you miss by not having any. I mean, it's not always rainbows and unicorns. There are rough patches as the kids grow up, but in the end, unless you're a really screwed up individual, or the kid is, the good always outweighs the bad. Story 16. Honestly, it's the social pressure around the idea that your time not being seen as valuable as someone who has kids. Like your manager saying, but they have a kid, as a reason why you can't take the vacation time you booked months in advance because it's March break. Or why everyone always calls you to cover shifts or work late because you don't have kids, so obviously your free time isn't as important. Answer. Yeah. Every Christmas in my team, I'm denied annual leave because someone with kids deserves it more. So I always have to work over that period as punishment. I'm a woman, have endo, and can't have kids. Also, as a woman who can't have kids, there's no equivalent of maternity leave. There's no, sorry your body sucks and can't produce life, so here is some paid time off. Story 17. I will say, as a father of two, 1 and 3 years old, seeing your kids take their first steps, say their first words, see their joy on their face touches the feels in a way I can't describe. You won't ever feel that unless you have kids. Alternatively, the 4K child tax credit I get every year. Answer. The heightened happiness also comes with heightened sadness, heightened fear, heightened guilt, etc. My anxieties and paranoia over making mistakes is already unmanageably overwhelming enough, without adding, I have to take care of this tiny, fragile human being 24/7, and if anything goes wrong, it'll be all my fault. I know me. Any successes will feel like they're not good enough, while any slight thing that goes wrong will seem like the end of the world. And it wouldn't be good for any kid to grow up in that environment. Story 18. I've never felt the urge to have kids and am fine with that, but I used to live in a country where being child-free by choice was very much not a thing. I had a lot of conversations about this with a lot of locals, and 2 responses to me being child-free really stuck with me. 1, wow, it's so sad that you'll never experience real love. 2, but you'll never know what it's like to be a real woman. So, there you go, the cons of not having children, as presented by 2 random dudes in South Korea. Answer. I'm a parent of 3 boys. Point 1. I would say it's more unconditional love, as long as you're a good parent. Point 2. That's the dumbest thing I've read on the internet today, and that's with Trump as our president. I love being a parent and couldn't imagine not being one, but I'm thankful to those people who know they don't want to be one. Having a child you don't want to parent is terrible for everyone. Congratulations on your decision and standing your ground. Story 19. There's another level of happiness of watching your child grow. Before I had my son, I underestimated how much these things would mean to me. No financial, business, education, or personal achievement has come close. They make me happy in a way, but not a lasting happiness. But simple things like watching my son take his first steps, first word, eat on his own, play sports, potty train, him giving me a hug, kiss, saying I love you, is a level of happiness I can't get anywhere else. I don't know if this will make sense. It feels like it cures all the bad days you've ever had in life. Before he was born, I would get so frustrated trying to start my business. I felt like I would never make it. I wasn't looking at my day-to-day improvements. I was only thinking of the end goal. Having him taught me patience, understanding, taking things day by day, enjoying the small wins every day. I would give up my nice house, all my money, stocks, cars, jewelry, watches. I'll give it all up, but I wouldn't trade him for the world. Story 20. I love how much more magical things have become since having kids. I disliked Christmas for a few years. It was just an obligation to drive far, make foods I don't love, and spend money on gifts. Now, holy shoot, I decorate my entire house because the kids wake in the morning and are absolutely in awe. They get so excited to go pick out a tree, light the menorah, see the grandparents, see Santa at the local events. Even just driving home at night gets them so excited because they get to see everyone else's lights and decorations. They love those Shoot Rankin Bass claymation movies, and it reminds me how much I used to love that stuff as a kid. Same for my husband. Now the holidays are something we look forward to instead of dread. Making your own children feel happy and making good memories for them is a very cool feeling. Also, after your baby learns how to sleep through the night, so you can finally sleep through the night, that first long sleep is amazing. I still think about the naps I would take after the sleep deprivation period was finally over. They were so good. Best sleep I ever had. Story 21. As someone without a child, it is harder to make friends as an adult without kids. They are involved in so many local activities that you hurt to meet other adults in the same life stage as you. Story 22. Unless you want children, there are no cons of not having children, in which case the con is not having children. Story 23. Married and no children. I had a vasectomy at 36. We both did not want children. I was told I was selfish for not wanting kids. I thought it was an adult decision based on all the kids born to people who didn't want them, but had them anyways. We're happy. The only con we talk about is who's going to visit when we're old and feeble. Selfish reason. Otherwise, that is it. We've been able to do and experience a lot in life. It's been fun. More or less. Answer. In my experience working at a nursing home for several years, having kids is not a reliable predictor of whether someone will have a lot of visitors. Some of the folks with the most visitors were childless. When you're child-free, you have an opportunity to devote more time to your nieces and nephews, helping at church and philanthropic organizations, etc. And if you do that, you'll have plenty of visitors because people think to themselves, so-and-so invested time and energy into my life, even though they didn't have to. And now they're old and they don't have kids, so I'd better visit them regularly. Story 24. As a happily child-free woman, I feel the biggest con to not having children is having to answer never-ending questions about it and defend my choices constantly. I have put more thought into not having children than any parent I've ever met put into having them. Yet I am the one facing 21 questions anytime the subject comes up. I am told constantly how I will regret my decision. I'm told I will die alone without children. I am told I don't have a family or that I'll never understand unconditional love. I am considered less of a woman because I am not a mother. Likewise, it is assumed by default that I am a mother, which leads to more awkward questions and conversations about it. Strangers especially love to interject and tell me all about how I've made a bad choice. Story 25. One big disappointment has been the deliberate targeting by certain female friends, demanding that my life wouldn't be complete without having children. The biological determinism argument coming from other women is the worst. Story 26. I have children and I love them very much. I wouldn't say that there are actually cons to not having children, just different pros. By every logical metric, it makes more sense not to have children in the U.S. Some of us do anyway for illogical reasons. The cons only kick in if you can understand those illogical reasons. If you can't, there are no cons. Answer. I never met someone I wanted to marry. Had I probably would have kids, but I only wanted kids with a partner I wanted to be partners with. So I actually am not sad I didn't have kids, but I do sometimes think, what if I'd committed more to having a partner? How different would my Friday nights and holidays and my Sunday afternoons be? That said, I have a nice life and am always grateful I didn't marry the wrong person. And this is no slam on people who divorce or single parents. I just wanted one thing to do the other. So kids never motivated me to marry. And because I never married, I never had kids. It feels more like looking out at a bunch of other possible futures. Some better in some ways, some definitely far worse, but mostly just different. Story 27. Family thinks you should do all the traveling for visits. They drive and fly across the country regularly, and even fly overseas to see family with kids. My wife and I, 0 visits to us in over a decade. Story 28. Judgment for not having children. Comments about being childless. Parents constantly asking you why you don't have children. People with children acting like I'm selfish for not having any. Sometimes I just tell them I'm barren so they get a clue. Story 29. My parents are disappointed in me. Doesn't mean I'm going to have kids, of course, but it still sucks to know that. Story 30. The only one of any substance I can really think of is the shrinking strained friend circle, as friends who have kids are usually busy doing shoot for their kids or with other people and their kids. I've drifted from all my parenting friends since they do kid stuff together or with new parenting friends, and I'm not as high a priority. Story 31. No one to force chores onto. I have to wash my own dishes and clean the bathroom and kitchen myself like a chump. No one even gives me an allowance for it. Story 32. Kind of heavy, but my wife is currently in the hospital ICU for 30 days with heart issues, hopefully getting a transplant in the future. My 3 adult kids come visit her with me and on their own. They let our dog out when I am there for long days. They bring me dinners. I couldn't go through this without them. Story 33. Having children can confer a profound sense of genuine life satisfaction. Can't really describe it. I've accomplished a lot of things, traveled a lot, and built myself substantial wealth and no dislike to the people without kids. But as someone who has both not had kids and now has kids, there is no other feeling like it. Answer. The challenge I have with this argument is that your experience of life with and without kids was both good and a leveling up for you personally in your life satisfaction with kids. That is not the experience many childless by choice folks will have. They know parenting would have serious love and joy, and the total parent experience is still not what they want for their own unique reasons. I'm thrilled for you, for your experience. That, no snark, is awesome. But to assume others would have the same experience and fulfillment is incorrect. Story 34. When am I getting grandchildren? When am I getting grandchildren? When am I getting grandchildren? Look, Mom, I don't even know how to talk to women, let alone have kids with one. Story 35. Nothing. Absolutely no downside to not having kids. Let your friends and family have kids. You can spoil them and send them home once they become obnoxious. Story 36. I've seen these cited in the comments. Who will take care of you when you're older? Or, I don't want to be all alone when I'm old. Go to any nursing home and take a fudge walk around. Ask those people how often their children come to visit them. Answer. Even as a child of decent and loving parents, I would not have ever taken on a serious caregiver role for them. I managed a lot for them at the end of their lives in medical care and life engagement and advocacy, and I had boundaries that were not crossed. They got excellent professional care. Some parents suck and have NC children for their own fault and actions. Some parents and children are loving or caring, but not suited to active caregiving. Story 37. Too much free time, too relaxed, too much disposable income, too much time alone with your partner, too much freedom, too good of a sleep schedule, etc. Story 38. Never having a little guy waddle into your bedroom to bring you a kitchen trash can bigger than them because they know you are sick, even if it's just a headache. Story 39. Your friends all start having kids and you stop hanging out with them. Increasingly, your closer friends are also childless. You think you'll still be friends with people who have kids, but they stop caring about anything going on with you or being able to engage or even have a conversation. And they don't want to be out anywhere without their kids, so forget about that. Story 40. You will probably have to make other childless friends because most of your existing friends will have kids, and that's a big part of life you won't be able to relate to anymore. Not saying you can't still be friends, but being child-free, you'll need other people to spend time with and connect with who have as much free time as you and also don't want to talk about kids. Answer. This assumption people make that everyone who's child-free has lots of free time can be annoying. Other things take up time other than parenting, demanding jobs, caring for elderly relatives, etc. People with kids don't always seem to appreciate this and expect those child-free to work around their kids' schedule for socializing or be the ones to always pick up work tasks outside normal hours. Story 41. Not having grandchildren. We tried, but I kept miscarrying, and after several, we decided it was not in our cards. It was hard, but looking back, I accepted that fate and we made the best of it. All of our friends have grandchildren and are suddenly too busy to do much else. They seem so much more joyous in this role than they ever seemed as parents, frankly. All of them were great parents, but this is different and I can easily see it. I never anticipated a second wave of pain, but I feel it, have it, and offer to help whenever I can. Story 42. I have 3 who like different things, and I get to explore with them and see them see the world through their eyes. The amount of love and attention you get from them is more than I could ever put in. I get hugs when I'm sad and when happy. Also, you don't get your own couch co-op team built in. Story 43. Honestly, the biggest con is that society won't stop reminding you about it. You'll constantly get the, "So when are you having kids?" interrogation, even if you're perfectly happy. Aside from that, maybe fewer people to pass down your stories and quirks to, but you gain freedom, time, and money in return. Story 44. There are points in my life where the only thing that kept me going was ensuring my kids would be okay. I've done things I never thought possible in this life to ensure their well-being. That said, my kids were wanted and loved, and it's definitely the hardest thing you'll ever do. And if you don't want kids, don't have them. They are no guarantee of anything. Story 45. Experiencing the longing of feeling like you need to meet your child's soul earthside. IMHO, there shouldn't be a logistical reason to have children. I didn't have a child to care for me when I'm old, or to plan my funeral, or any self-serving reason. I worked really hard to have my kiddo, Miracle IVF, because I felt this incredible longing to bring him into the world. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have done it. There is no con to not having kids if you don't feel the mysterious need to and desperate urge fulfill it. Story 46. The biggest appeal to having children for me would be the feeling of being normal and being accepted as a normal person. People generally accept you better when you're part of a pack, and that includes families. It also eases you into some social situations better. Parents can find common ground through their kids that single people usually don't. But so many drawbacks, for me, outweigh that advantage. Story 47. According to my mother, not having anyone to care for you when you're older. EMO, though, if that's your motive for having children, then you shouldn't have them, because it should never be about you. Story 48. Bartender server here. I've had requests for specific holidays and vacation time rejected because management chose to give it to employees with kids instead. Like, yeah, I understand them wanting Father's Day off, but you do know that grown-ups also like spending those days with their parents too, right? Some of us only have a limited amount of them left. People with kids aren't the only ones who celebrate holidays. Story 49. Having to physically go fetch things myself. Lol. I still have one kid at home, but when she moves out, who's going to fetch me random things from the next room? Story 50. You'll never know what it's like for another person to laugh hysterically at your farts without judgment. Story 51. The only downside I can think of is having to explain for years why I didn't want kids. Most of those questions came in my 20s, 30s, but now at 44, people rarely ask anymore. I always promised myself that if I couldn't honestly say I'd be happier with kids, then I wouldn't have them. No regrets. I get to travel the world several times a year. Story 52. Who am I going to leave all this shoot to? Who is going to look out for me when they're abusing me in the old people's home? When I get old and sick, who do I call when everyone else's kids are busy looking out for them? What's Christmas going to look like in 30, 40 years? The list goes on. Story 53. Evolution gave you one goddamn job. Just kidding. I have 4 kids and I love being a dad. However, I would never, ever shame somebody for choosing not to have kids. Everyone has the right to live their life the way they see fit. Story 54. The answers from this thread from parents is rather useless. Bonding, watching them grow, blah, blah. These are psychosomatic responses that grow if you bond with something. The real issue I have is, who will take care of me if I become decrepit? Although again, that is not a given even if you have a child. Story 55. You know that exciting feeling you had when seeing something like Lord of the Rings trilogy the first time? You basically get to have countless of those experiences with your own kids, as you get to share their first-time experiences with them. I just recently watched Inception for my 14-year-old daughter's first time, and I think the whole movie truly rocked her world a little bit. She is at the age of reading complex stories and watching more advanced films, and it was just such an awesome to share that experience with her. Being a parent gives you the opportunity to share all these things with each and every kid, over and over. It never gets old. There's so many reasons, but this has been one of the more surprising and fun things I've gotten to experience as a dad. Story 56. Retirement is so much easier without children. I have been married for 32 years to the same woman, and we decided early on not to have kids. Best decision ever. Story 57. Child-free by choice. No cons for me personally. I suppose the only thing that crosses my mind once in a blue moon is, you'll never feel that mother's love. Not enough for me to want to have children, but I do wonder. Also, I think my husband and I would make a super cute baby, but again, these are fleeting thoughts, LOL. Story 58. Sometimes I contemplate if I'm going to regret being child-free, especially since I'm at the age when all my friends have kids, but I'd rather regret not having them than regret having them. Story 59. I can't think of a con except maybe I wouldn't look so weird playing on playground equipment or going to all the fun museums that are more child-friendly if I had a kid. Everyone saying loneliness doesn't realize that a lot of elderly people with kids die alone. I think it's wrong to have kids and think they'll take care of you. Story 60. I don't get woken up all the time. I often find I'm forced to engage in my own hobbies. I'm constantly reassured my dog isn't going to get her ears tugged, on our tail yanked. Every time I clean up a mess in my house, I'm heartbroken to know it was inevitable, caused by my own hand. Life is terrible without kids. Story 61. For me, about the only con is that occasionally some tedious chud will insist that you do in fact want, or even have to have children, or that you're not a real man-adult human, or whatever if you don't reproduce. So, nothing that really matters. Story 62. I love my kids so much, but I am currently in a doctor's office waiting for a vasectomy consultation. My life before kids was fulfilling enough with my wife and our dog. But I will say that my own personal con of not having children is that I didn't realize I could love anything as hard as I do my kids. Not everyone gets this, but I'm glad that I did. After having my first child, I realized that I was meant to be a father. I don't always want to do things for my children, but when I make them happy, it makes me feel satisfied in my soul. Story 63. No one to help you do yard work or tell stories about your childhood. No one to talk back to you and tell you they wished you were dead because you took away their iPhone. No one to have to clean up their room or throw the trash. Story 64. The feeling when your toddler smiles at you, cuddles you, runs to you, gives affection through their own free will. It's unmatched. There is nothing in this world like it. Story 65. I think both have their individual benefits. Not having kids has its pros, and having kids has its pros. I just believe having children is one of the most beautiful things ever, and it's a life-altering experience to see and have your own baby for the first time. People without kids can live their whole life without having them and be fine, especially if they just weren't really cut out to be a parent. They have more free time and financial freedom, as well as less responsibility for other people. But I can't help but think they are missing out on one of the best things to exist. Story 66. The hilarious and random shoot my kid says, and the unconditional love he gives me most of the time, make this whole experience worthwhile. And I literally did not know we needed him in our lives until he joined us. But let me tell you, it's been quite a ride. I've struggled with PPA, PPD, and the pandemic took quite a toll on our relationship. But now that our kid is older and a real person, it's more joy than not. Story 67. Speaking as someone with a child whom I love, I can't think of any. Life is different when you have a kid. Some things can be more fun, or more scary, or more difficult, or more funny. But life without a kid can also be the same, or maybe even easier. It just depends with who you are and how you deal with what you get or don't get in life. A colleague once asked another colleague who disliked her husband a lot, "Do you regret being with Jay? Would life be happier without him, even if you end up not having S and B?" Friend replied, "I'd never know. How would I miss something I never knew I could have had?" Story 68. For my wife and I, none at all. It's an issue for society as a whole, though, if the overall population ages. We also have to account for a big chunk of our retirement to go to care when we get really old. Story 69. I think children just make life magical. You look forward to events and holidays because you know your kids will have fun or enjoy it. Before I had my daughter, I felt like I was just going through the motions and didn't really look forward to things. Now they have more meaning. Story 70. No one to leave all your extra money to when you die. You won't be able to agree with people when they talk about how hard it is, how little sleep they get, being forced to sleep in at weekends and do anything you want because you don't have a small human running your life. You won't be able to fund another human being and work tons of overtime to pay for it for literally the entirety of your life. These are all cons, right? Story 71. You will never know a bond between a child and a parent. I have had the best memories with my daughter. She is my best friend. She makes me so happy watching her grow and accomplish things. I can't wait to have grandchildren to spoil and love. Story 72. I chose not to have kids because this planet will not be a comfortable place to live in the not-too-distant future. I feel sorry for future generations. Story 73. I can only think of the elder solitude people feel and children somehow are obliged to keep company, but most don't. And honestly, older people become a burden so. Answer: this, and surprised people haven't mentioned it more. I feel very, very outside society for not having kids. Most people my age socialize with other couples and their kids in their neighborhoods. One of the first questions people ask you when you make small talk network is, do you have kids? And you lose that point of connection. That's often the main thing in their life. Not saying these are reasons to have kids. I obviously still don't want to for various reasons, but they're real cons. Story 74. Nothing that I can think of. I am a woman who never had kids. I have no regrets at 53. People who go on and on about how having kids was the best thing they could ever do in life are extremely performative, in my opinion. Story 75. I've been trying to make friends, and it feels like a lot of community groups for adults in my area are parent and baby-based. It seems like being parents allows for social opportunities with other parents. I'm not under the impression that every parent is friends with every other parent, but it's at least a way to meet people that isn't at work, or at a bar, or at an expensive class. Story 76. You are forced to travel as much as you want with all of your disposable income. It's a true tragedy because jet lag is exhausting sometimes. Story 77. My son will be 29 soon, and I cannot imagine my life without him in it. I love the person he is and always have. I also have former stepchildren who make my life better. It's good having people to love. Story 78. Honestly, I love being a parent, watching them grow up, hitting various milestones, and getting to share my hobbies with my kids, teach and see them learn. It's all incredibly satisfying. I love my kids and would dislike missing out on all that. But I am also sure that childless adults love their hobbies and free time and would dislike missing out on that. It's a personal choice, and whatever you decide, there will be pros and cons. Story 79. Would adopting a 4-year-old solve for some of the cons, like not having a family unit? Genuinely curious as pregnancy, childbirth, the 0 to 3 years seem incredibly unappealing to me, but having a family feels valuable. Story 80. Getting older and lonely once your own parents are gone. Without having kids, your family will only get smaller, never bigger. Story 81. None that I know of. Am in my early 60s, childless, and never regretted having children. I asked a friend of mine if she had any grandchildren. She mentioned that all 3 of her kids weren't having children. Story 82. Too much free time. Having money to spend on myself. Going on vacation with another adult and not having to worry about what to do with the kid. Being able to go out without having to find a sitter. Never have to change diapers. Not having to learn how to ignore a screaming child while all your friends look at you like, can't they hear that? Honestly, it's terrible. Who wants to live like this? Story 83. Mine at least not motivation to get up in the morning sometimes. As long I have my bills paid, I can take a day or 2 off. It'll be broke at home but free. Story 84. There are some activities that I would like to still enjoy that just seem somehow weird and creepy to do as a middle-aged man by myself with no children. Feeding ducks at the park, for example. Can't wait to age into that hobby again. About 20 more years to go, and I'll be adorable there with my bag of healthy duck food and old man hat. Story 85. I mean, there's all the sentimental reasons, but mostly the question of who gets power of attorney if I get really sick. Story 86. You only get to experience childhood wonder once. The most enjoyable thing as a parent is witnessing the joys of the world for the first time again through your children. It's like getting to enjoy your favorite movie, book, game, experience again for the first time. Story 87. My kids are fun. They are funny. I spend a lot of time with them. They enrich my life as I see the world anew through their eyes. Story 88. My teenager asked me if we'd be friends if we met when I was a teenager. I told her yes, because she's exactly my kind of friend. Wants to walk around town, hang out at McDonald's, walk around some more and listen to music. I love her so much. Story 89. I had a medical emergency when I was 32. My children were exceptionally young. As I contemplated that I might be dying, I felt an immense peace from the fact that it had children, as if it was okay because I would be living on through them, even if I wouldn't be there to watch them grow. I've never forgotten that peace I felt. I was never one who dreamed of having kids all my life, yet the fulfillment it gave my soul is indescribable. I can't believe never having that. Story 90. Maybe this is just my gamer mind, but it's really like leveling up. So many things start to click. You see your parents, and others in a new light. The first 4 years or so are just explosive. The love you get from your kids and the way you engage with the world is just wild. It's impossible to come out unchanged. Story 91. It's a pretty fundamental human experience type thing. And now on the other side of it, I can't imagine living this life without having experienced what it's like living a child. It's some deep evolutionary hardwiring in the brain type shoot. Like the most insane endorphin release at times, coupled with insane stress. The stuff of life. Story 92. You will never truly understand your own parents. You'll miss out on seeing childhood from the outside, which adds so much color and depth to your own childhood. You'll miss out on the most amazing snuggles and hugs. Story 93. It's awkward to go to some fun places meant for kids, while it would be perfectly acceptable to go if you were with a kid. Story 94. I'll tell you this, their childhood may have left you tired and frustrated at times, but when they get older, you will always remember the great times, and the difficult times are either forgotten or something to laugh about. Story 95. My husband and I went back and forth for many years on whether we wanted children or not. I ended up getting pregnant unexpectedly last year, and I can say wholeheartedly, for the right person, you'd be missing out on completing something in your heart. I never expected to have such a deep love for a child. I get it. I would do anything for my son. I've never experienced such a deep and pure love. Story 96. One day you will be old, and there is nothing more amazing than playing with your grandchildren in your old age. Story 97. I didn't have kids until I was 42, so I think I can really see both perspectives on this. I lived 20 years of adult life without kids. I know what it is and what it feels like. I've had all the great experiences that come with it, and I've lived the last 5 years with kids. I gotta tell you, those 20 years were awfully thin on meaning compared to the last 5, and I'd trade them all for just 5 more years with my kids. Story 98. You will miss the greatest love you ever felt and the chance to express it and receive it every day. Story 99. Okay, hear me out on this one. Less free labor. Having a team to help with chores around the house is a game changer. Also, there's the whole teaching and watching them grow thing. That's cool. Story 100. I'm diagnosed with major depression, insomnia, and anxiety. But when my kids run to me for a hug, thank me for helping them, telling me they love me, and how great of a dad I am, that hits different from other people giving you compliments. It's on another level. But darn, they're expensive. Story 101. Missing out on the greatest gift life has to offer. The experience of creating life and the purpose it can create for you is unmatched. Story 102. Having kids feels like there is a new 50 of life content you unlocked, without being able to imagine this part exists before. I imagined having kids like, there comes an add-on, but now I realize I ran at 50, and now I am complete. Story 103. From an actual child-free person. Being asked when we're having kids by relatives. That's it. It's fudge annoying because they won't accept we're never having kids. The constant, oh, but you'll change your mind is fudge annoying. Like, no, I'm not going to change my mind. I have a dozen reasons to not have kids, so my plans aren't changing. Story 104. I don't have kids, but I'm at that age where a lot of my friends are having their first or second child. I recognize that they have an entirely new perspective on life once having a kid that I have no frame of reference for. The challenges of navigating the current times are so much different for those with kids. I don't have that same existential terror driving me to make more out of my fleeting time, to shape a new life to be better than myself. Right now, I can't see myself having kids, but I've seen how it drives change in those that have. I'm drifting through my life, letting the current take me while my friends are navigating against it with a destination in mind. My choice is also depriving my parents of having grandchildren, and there's an element of guilt there. Story 105. You're missing out on an indescribable type depth of love. For full context, I'm an early 30s dad, and today is my daughter's 3rd birthday, so I do still have a lot of life to live. But up to this point, I've never felt anything like it. Pure joy watching something you created grow into her own person. Learn how to move in the world, communicate and interact with us. And all this happens so fast, exponentially speeds up. Hearing her randomly say, I love you, Appa, or I'm so proud of you, or have inside jokes with you. There's a real strong bond there, and you get to experience childhood again. But this time, you get to be the giver. Story 106. My life was all cruel darkness, and I was sure that was just how life is. I wasn't a depressed person. I just understood that life was sort of gray rather than black or white. My daughter being born was like a great ray of light cast over a dark sea, and she has grown and cast a warm glow over my entire existence. Her sister, just as much. Having kids is so fudge brutal in so many different ways, I do not blame anyone for just skipping it. But I cannot help feeling bad for them, because I cannot imagine not experiencing the many joys of parenthood and how much it enriches life. Story 107. I'll always work with kids because I love them so much. They are important for my humanity. They are funny. They are smarter than adults. They are better in every way. They're the most important thing. The con is admitting I wouldn't be good at it. I never wanted to be a mom, so I wouldn't be a good one. But I can be a teacher, coach, friend, auntie, godparent. Story 108. I never get to leave work early because I have to pick up kids from school, or stay home because the kid has a runny nose, or get out of social engagements because someone got a bead stuck in their nose. Basically, I don't get to use my kids as excuses to get out of shoot. Story 109. The unconditional love. Yes, you love your parents, siblings, partner, friends, but my goodness, the love your child has for you, and you for them, is something that I genuinely can't express in words. Story 110. Till I had a child, I never knew what true love means. Having a child broke open doors inside my heart that I never knew existed. I don't know about others, but to me, if I didn't have a child, I would not have known selfless true love. Plus, if I never had a child, I would not have become as empathetic and aware about the world. It's like, I need to take part in making the world a better place because we need to leave a better world for the safety of our children. Pre-parenthood, I was self-centered and just did not care much about the world. Story 111. To each their own, but my child-free siblings are so envious of me they can hardly speak of it. It just leaks out in snark when I mention kids and grandkids. The sensible ones decided to treat my kids really well, and they now have grandnieces and nephews who adore them, while the others are complaining about their loneliness. I think this is the main pro-con. If you do the work and perform the care, you create unique, lasting bonds to potentially fantastic people. My kids and grandkids are awesome and the best people to hang with. If you think it will come easy or by force guilt, you end up alone. Story 112. The more I read some of these comments, the more I think people know whether or not they want to have children in this life. Story 113. You'll never know a child's love. A child's love for a parent is the first language of the heart, pure, unchosen, and unquestioning. It does not measure worth or weigh flaws. It simply flows, like sunlight reaching toward its source. It is the love of dependence, where safety feels like arms around you and trust is as natural as breathing. It is wonder mixed with imitation, seeing a parent not just as caretaker, but as the very shape of the world itself. Unlike friendship, it asks for no reciprocity. Unlike romance, it is not chosen or pursued. It is elemental, a bond written before memory, the soil in which all other loves will one day take root. Story 114. The disadvantages are the opposite of the advantages. Not having children means you miss out on so much. Big parts of you live on through your kids, the way the lives of my parents and grandparents live on in me. Most people don't write books or make enduring art. Their lives leave no mark on the world. But if you believe you have something important to offer the world, it often persists in your children. Children are often there to be with you as you age, like I am for my parents and they were for their parents. Having kids has made me a much better manager in my professional life. It forces you to develop patience, a sense of humor, or at least resignation in the face of ridiculous people problems, and gives you insight into psychology of people and how to communicate effectively. Regardless if you're a great or a mediocre manager or colleague, kids will make you better. In general, successful parenthood makes you a better version of yourself, unlocks potential you didn't know you had, and connects you to innumerable pleasures and triumphs, big and small. Not having kids means you miss out on all of that. Story 115. Professionally, not having kids puts you on the outside of a lot of interactions and shared experiences that would otherwise be points of common ground and shared experiences. In client settings, it's super easy to use kids as small talk catalysts. Not having them can put you on the outside of those exchanges. Story 116. You lose many occasions to use both "I told you so" and the full name sure names of someone in a "I mean business" tone. Story 117. Controversial opinion. You see a big decline in your life after 40. You might have money, but also less energy and less social life. Many people feel alone or bored and try to fill that void with pets, hobbies, or politics. Meanwhile, people with kids might have no money, no energy or time for themselves, but they don't feel, quote, bored as they have to take care of their kids. In addition, having daily contact with people that love and depend on you has a very positive impact in your mental health. Story 118. At work, you will be considered an AH for not taking a shift from the coworker with kids because you do not have kids, so you have no life anyway. Story 119. People around you will ask why you don't have children, whereas no one asks them why they have children. Story 120. There's no other love greater than a parent and a child. The feeling of giving birth and the experience and joy after was something I have never experienced before. The amount of pride we feel as parents seeing him learn and grow and develop his own personality is unmatched. The feeling of wanting to protect someone, love someone, care so deeply for them, it makes it all worth it. I couldn't imagine going through life not feeling all of these things. And on the flip side, I'm extremely close with my parents, which helps. My mom is my best friend. My dad helped us with all of our home renovations and life advice. My mom calls me every day, every other day, and we can just yap for an hour about everything and nothing. It's a great experience in life, and I'm very grateful. Story 121. Fudge paperwork and everyone refusing you except that you have no beneficiaries. It's like, look, I'm single. I have no kids. I have no family. Nobody is going to come try to claim my benefits. And I sure as fudge ain't going to care when I'm dead. Story 122. The loss of your family's legacy. I'm not talking about some grand, carve your name upon the face of the world sort of thing, but rather the quiet extinction of your family's cultural lineage. All the fond stories passed along down the line by grandparents, that one dumb family tradition you have, the quirky little things that make your clan yours. Sure, you can write about those experiences, laugh about them with friends, but they'll never matter to anyone as much as they did to your family. And if nobody has kids, then that line comes to an end. All those little elements lost forever. Story 123. Children are amazing. I can't even imagine my life without them. There is obviously some bad too, and they are expensive, but without them, my life would seem empty. Story 124. Becoming a mom made me have a better understanding of some of my parents' actions. I also notice my friends without kids still focus heavily on the things their parents did or didn't do, where I now focus on how I will raise my own children. I'm no longer defined by just being someone's daughter, because I am also someone's mother. It's kind of healing in a way, and feels like the closest to a do-over in life in a way. I also have a deeper understanding of what it means to be selfless, although sometimes it feels like too much. I think it's at a level you can't quite grasp without having children. A lot of people do have kids, and as people age, they become a huge part of their lives, or I guess have the potential to. Sometimes friendships and community can be harder to build without this in common. Bonds with family and relationships in general have become stronger. I don't think they would be without kids in the mix. My partner and I strive to be better and take on more. So honestly, we make more money than we probably would without kids because we feel